For inquiry 13.1 and 13.2, we're going to be creating Venn diagrams to review some of the different organisms that we have studied in this unit. Before we get to our Venn diagrams, I'm going to go back to our photo cards for just a moment, and we're going to go back through and look at the different organisms that we have studied. For the Getting Started activity, you were supposed to do a photo card update. This particular organism is Amoeba proteus, and its common name is just amoeba. And some of the characteristics that hopefully you put on your photo card update is that it is a protist, it is aquatic, it is a unicellular organism, which means it's just one cell. Each cell is a separate organism. It moves by pseudopod or pseudopodia. It is more animal-like than it is plant-like because it does not have chloroplast. It has to eat food to get its energy. Then our next organism we have here is yeast. And this type of yeast is the type of yeast that you would use to make bread and other products like that. And some of its characteristics, it's in the kingdom fungi, so it is a fungus. This type of yeast stays dormant until water is added. It needs water and warmth in order for it to grow. And when it grows, it starts going through a process of fermentation. This particular organism is what we call the wow bug. If you remember, its genus and species name is Melitobia digitata. Its common name is just wow bug. Some of its characteristics, it is in the kingdom Animalia, so it's an animal. It is an invertebrate animal. It's an insect. It's in class Insecta, so that means it also is an arachnid. I'm sorry, not arachnid, an arthropod. Sorry, I got my 8 words mixed up. It is an arthropod, and it is in the class Insecta. It is a microscopic wasp, and it is parasitic. It feeds upon the larvae of flies. It is so small that its stinger cannot hurt us, but it does have a stinger. This particular organism, if you remember from our lessons, is called a hydra. It is in the genus Hydra, and its common name is also called hydra. Some of its characteristics are that it is an invertebrate animal. It is a cnidarian. It's kin to the jellyfish. Its tentacles have stinging cells called nematocysts. Its body is just a hollow tube. Its body is only 2 cells thick. It has that hollow digestive cavity where it digests its food. And it was microscopic and aquatic. Okay, these particular organisms we all know are humans. Genus is Homo, species is sapiens, so their scientific name is Homo sapiens. Common name would be human. Some characteristics, they are animals, they are mammals, so they're vertebrate animals. They have hair, they have 4 limbs, they have 2 arms, 2 legs. And we know a lot of characteristics about humans because we're humans. This particular organism was the blackworm. In particular, this species was the California blackworm, and its scientific name was Lumbriculus variegatus. And some of its characteristics is that it's very small. It is aquatic. It lives in fresh water. It likes to live in the edges of ponds and rivers and lakes and creeks. You can see through its body. Its body is transparent. We remember from our lesson about the blackworm that it can regenerate lost body parts. This particular organism is duckweed. Duckweed's scientific name is Limna, or that's its genus name. One species would be called Limna limna, but there are many species of duckweed, and we commonly call it duckweed. Some characteristics is that it's a small plant. It is aquatic. It floats on top of the water. Its leaves are called fronds, and its roots hang down into the water. It can reproduce very rapidly. It produces buds. Each of the limna can form by asexual reproduction called budding, so it can reproduce and spread very quickly. It's commonly found in ponds and rivers, so it's a freshwater organism. So it is a freshwater plant. This particular organism was a type of Euglena. Its genus name is Euglena, but we also commonly call it Euglena. Some of its characteristics are that it is in the protist kingdom. It is called a plant-like protist because it has chloroplast, and we know those chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which are needed to absorb sunlight energy for photosynthesis. This particular organism is aquatic, and it swims around in the water using its flagella or whip-like tail to help it move through the water. It is unicellular. This particular organism is a paramecium. Its genus name is Paramecium, but also its common name is Paramecium, and there are different species of Paramecium. The Paramecium is also a protist, so it's in the kingdom Protista. It is unicellular. It is aquatic, but it is more of an animal-like protist because it has to eat things. It uses its little hair-like projections called cilia, which are all around the outside of its body, to help it swim through the water. This particular species is black bread mold. You see the little black specks on the piece of bread? Well, that is black bread mold. Its genus is Rhizopus, and its species is Stolonifer, but we commonly call it bread mold. Some of its characteristics are that it is in the fungi kingdom, so it is a fungus. It's a type of fungus that does not have a large fruiting body like mushrooms or something like that, but instead its mycelium grow into the surface of where it lives, like on bread, for example. And the only time it's visible is when it's in its fruiting or reproductive stage, where it produces spores in a structure called a sporangia. And remember, fungi like to live in warm, moist, dark environments. This particular organism, if you remember from Lesson 9, is the Daphnia. This particular species is Daphnia pulex, but there are several species of Daphnia. We commonly also call it Daphnia, or some people call it a water flea because it looks kind of like a flea. And it moves kind of like a flea, except it's swimming through the water. It has those little jerky movements that are real quick. Some characteristics is that it's in the animal kingdom. It is an invertebrate animal. It is also an arthropod. It's in the class Crustacea, so it's a crustacean, kin to lobsters, shrimp, crab, and so forth. It is aquatic. It lives in fresh water. Its carapace or shell is transparent. We can see through it. It has antennae. It has legs that beat about really quickly. Its legs actually, the hairs on its legs help it to get food. And we know that we tested it for heart rate and so forth. Okay, those are the particular species that we studied about in this unit, and now we're going to use some of those to create our Venn diagrams. So from those organisms that we just reviewed over, you need to choose any two of them. Particularly, I would like for you to choose things that are not really similar to each other. Try to choose things that are pretty different from each other. Like, for example, I might choose duckweed and Daphnia, for example. Or maybe I want to choose Hydra and Daphnia. Or maybe I would like to choose some other type of organisms. Just make sure you choose two from the ones we've studied in this unit, and try to choose two that are different from each other. And so on your Venn diagram, you would type in one organism's name above this side, the other organism's name above this side. And in your circles where they do not overlap, I want you to come up with at least 3 characteristics that are different about this one from this one. And again, 3 characteristics over here. And then in the middle, I want you to think of at least 2 things that they have in common. So 3, 2, 3. All right. Now let's scroll down and look at part 2 of this assignment. For your next Venn diagram, you're going to choose 3 organisms. And for this particular Venn diagram, you need to choose 3 organisms that are in different kingdoms. So we need to have 3 different kingdoms represented here. So let's go back and look at our photo cards real quick. You've got things that are in the animal kingdom, like the Daphnia and the blackworm and the humans and the hydra and the wow bug. Those are all animals. Okay, so pick one of your organisms from the animal kingdom. So either a wow bug, a hydra, the humans, the blackworm, or the Daphnia. Okay, another kingdom we have represented here are the protists. And for the protists, we have the amoeba, the euglena, and the paramecium. So choose one of those as your second organism. For your third organism, another kingdom we have represented are the fungi kingdom. So for the fungi, you can choose either the yeast or the black bread mold. Or you could choose to do the plant kingdom. Our plant representative in this unit was duckweed. So make sure for your Venn diagram with the 3 organisms that you choose something from a different kingdom. So kingdom 1, kingdom 2, something from kingdom 3. We have 4 kingdoms to pick from, and each of those have at least one organism that you could pick from. So let's just say, for example, I chose to compare Daphnia as my animal kingdom. I chose the paramecium for the protist kingdom, and I chose black bread mold for the fungi kingdom. Okay, so if I chose those 3 organisms, then in the parts of the circle that do not overlap, I would give at least 2 characteristics they have that are different. And I would do that for each one of these circle parts that do not overlap. At least 2 things that are different about each one from the rest. Now you've got to take a really close look at your circles. In this little part of the circle, you're going to be comparing this organism and this organism. So where they overlap together, you're going to compare one thing that's similar about those 2 organisms. Same thing right here. In this area, you're going to compare this organism to this organism. And then right here, you're going to compare this organism to this organism. And in this small little tiny area right here, you're going to find one thing that they all have in common. And you'll have to type it really small, or if you don't feel like you have enough room, take your drawing tool and draw a line out from that little area, and you can write your answer out here to the side if you would like to. Okay? So once you've done that, you will have reviewed the different living organisms that we studied about in this unit, and then you have a few reflecting questions to answer based on your Venn diagrams. All right, you may have to do a little research on letter C to find out what viruses are. And this question is a little tricky because viruses are actually not in any kingdom. They are actually not considered to be living things. So when you answer letter C, you need to do a little research and find out why viruses are not in any of those kingdoms. What makes them not a living thing? Okay, if you have any questions or comments, you can message me and I'll be glad to help you. Have a great day.